Hello, everybody. Welcome to Happy Maths Hour. Got the date. The date. Ignore the date. It's not Easter Monday at all. It's well, it doesn't matter what the date is because this is on YouTube and it doesn't matter what the date is. So what we're doing today is, and if I can change the screen now, I've got a challenge today because normally we've got Toni with us and she does the PowerPoint. Today I've got to do the PowerPoint on my own, which is an interesting challenge. Let me just double check that I don't think she's, just double check. Oh, yes, well, I will download that because I might be able to use the new one because she has added a couple of things to it. So, Happy Maths Hour. Save that and open that one up, and then I've got some other bits that I've had to improvise with, so I'm going to do that. So if you would love to enjoy mathematics, my mission and Toni's mission is that every child on earth will love learning and enjoy mathematics. That is my mission. So if that sounds good to you, now I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I was going to call. That's interesting. Just going to call Taylor, because Taylor's going to make sure that you can see what I hope you can see. So let's see. We're live, and now I don't know if this PowerPoint is.
Sorry, the person you wish to leave a message for cannot be.
I don't want to leave a message. I want to call him. And save. Oh, I see. PowerPoint 1. That's what we're doing. So we're going to open that and hope and pray that that's the one we want. Yes, that's it. Okay. Now, what we've got today is art. It's a combination of art and maths. And this is the thing, that you can find maths everywhere, literally. Hello, Taylor. I'm about to share my PowerPoint. So Are you able to go to Bubbly Maths? On Facebook, I mean. On Facebook and see, and if you can watch what's happening, then so we've got that. Now we're just going to do the introduction. So after the break, we're going to use art. We're going to see how art and architecture and lots of very beautiful things are. That's not coming up, and I don't know why. Lots of beautiful things are. They're what? What are they? They are. They can help you love maths. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do, by the way, is love maths. So just going to do our little introduction. Here we go. Welcome to Happy Maths Hour on Monday, the 12th of April. Sorry about that. And I'm going to share my screen. And Taylor, are you where you need to be? Are you on?
I think so.
Can you see the live?
Yeah.
Okay. So fingers crossed. Oh, I can hear my voice.
But it's different, is that right? Different video. Can you see the live?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm talking. That's me. So now I'm sharing my entire screen, and I'm just praying that this is now going to be my PowerPoint. Can you see the PowerPoint?
There's a bit of delay, so I'm waiting.
We're waiting for the PowerPoint, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yeah, that works.
Yes, you can see the PowerPoint with me with my messy hair and Toni.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to start the slideshow. Now it's a full screen.
The PowerPoint is like not the actual slideshow, but just the
Okay, stand by. Just any moment now. Oh, I'm not going to be able to do the ads. I'm just going to have to do without the ads because I don't know how to do that.
Yes.
Yes, we're good.
Yeah.
Yay! Hooray! Thank you, Taylor. Yes. Okay, now you'll see the fishies. Well, you will in a minute. Thank you, Taylor.
No problem.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Right, technology. We make it some way, somehow. We make it. Okay, so what we're dealing with today is frieze patterns. and I'm going to have to find a way of doing the ads because they're very super important to Relax TV. So I'm going to have to just cancel the PowerPoint and just hope and pray I can get back again afterwards. So what you're seeing there is an Escher pattern, but this is the whole thing about the frieze patterns is that it's a horizontal. It's what they call one-dimensional, which is not on one dimension, it's on 2 dimensions, but in terms of the pattern it's 1 dimension because it only goes side to side or up and down, but it's just like a line. It's not a wall, so it's not like wallpaper. It's just a little strip that can, say, go around the wall or just be decoration or be on a pattern on a dress, on clothing, on a suit, on a car, whatever you want. But it's just one pattern, like a strip that continues left and right or up and down, just continues along that strip and it doesn't extend out further. So they call it one-dimensional. So this is an Escher pattern. And if you notice, the fish are swimming in one direction. And I wonder if you've actually noticed the fish or the birds. Can you see the fish? Is it the fish that can you put in the comments? Did you see the fish first or the birds first? And that is actually, Escher's, we're going to do a whole program about Escher on its own. We're going to be doing activities that you can create these designs. Well, maybe not as good as he did, but oh my goodness, it's so amazing. That talk about art and maths all and technology all integrated together. Escher was actually an architect. So it's, yeah, so, but they're all identical and there's symmetry in there, different types of symmetry. So there's, and you can see the repetition of the bird flying in one direction and the fish swimming in the opposite direction. There's, if you, now there's a lot of links. Did I actually, I don't know if I wrote Escher in the description, but to a lot of the things we're going to see today, we have links, like any links that you see on, go to the description and you can just click on the links. So this here, now this is where you can literally talk maths in real life wherever you go. So what we're looking for here is we're looking for symmetry. And there is a lot of symmetry in frieze patterns. And apparently in crystallography, they're really important. So you have the 1 dimension, which is a strip. You've got 2 dimensions, which is wallpaper friezes. A wallpaper, there's a name for it, and I've got it written down somewhere. And then you have 3-dimensional, which happens naturally in nature. So crystals naturally form the 3D equivalents of oh dear. Oh my goodness! I did say I've got issues with my memory, and I don't mind transformations, reflections, and crystallography is the 3D manifestation of this that occurs naturally in nature. So what we're looking at here is actually, it's, even though it's 3-dimensional, the concept of the frieze itself is 1-dimensional. It's a strip. But if you look, so you can have this discussion when you find things, is that a frieze or is it not a frieze? Is there symmetry in there? So that's the key. Symmetry, that's the word I was looking for. Is there symmetry in there? So if you look at the strip that's facing us above the columns, you can see a tree with a jug, you can see a compass. This is how advanced the Romans were. About 2,000 years ago, they had science, they had maths, they had medicine, they had all these things you can see depicted their agriculture. But each one of those panels is different. So it isn't a frieze because they're all different. There's no symmetry unless the pattern repeats. If the pattern repeats, then you can maybe look for some symmetry, but it's not as simple. Whereas you look up, it's horizontal facing down. You've got a similar pattern facing down. Now, if you look carefully, those flowers aren't all identical. But as long as they repeat themselves, then let's say that maybe every second or third is the same, then you've got symmetry, you've got repetition going on, you've got a frieze. And then the other one is above the very, 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 very top, just a little strip that you can hardly see. That is a frieze for sure. If you look at it carefully, It's just a repeat of the same pattern again and again and again and again. So this is something you can just look for. If you, in any buildings, in materials, in just wherever you wander in life, and there's a little detail on it. I can see some tulips, looks like, and I don't know, but it's a lovely design. And this is in Greece, it's in Delphi, which is a very famous frieze in Greece. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and again that link is in, but you can see it, you can see the repetition. And that is very, very clear repetition, and it's just a long strip. And so we know that's a frieze, and there's symmetry in that. And then you've got all these different friezes. Look at that in India. Now they're not very precise. In some of them, they're actually telling a story. If you look carefully, it looks almost like a video, a movie. You know, like in the olden days when they had what they call moving pictures. If it's on 1, 2, 3, 4th row up, you can actually see a story changing, so that you can see that the horse keeps changing, things are happening. And so that's not a frieze, because it's unless it repeats itself, unless the story repeats itself again and again. But others of them, you can see there is the pattern repeats, and if they're not exact, it's just because of the engineering at the time. These are hand carved, so they're not going to be exact. But if they were meant to be exact, then conceptually they are friezes. So it's that discussion, that conversation about talking about symmetry, talking about reflections, talking about rotations. So, you know, if it was the other way around, is it rotated? You can use that language. Here again is another one. This is Greek. So that was India. This is now back to the Greeks. And that's that same one that we just saw. Is it? No, it's not quite the same. It's slightly different, and it's got 3 different friezes. Or you can even look at it, break it down further, and have the little bobbly bits in between. They could be separate friezes, or you could incorporate them within the other ones. They just, as long as the pattern is repeated across along a strip. Now here we go. We've got Persian frieze designs. So this is a concept that humans like. Now this, I have to see what time it is. It's time for a break. So when we come back, we're going to have a look at something we can do today to simulate friezes. Now I've got to work out how to do this. Oh, okay, I've got that. I've done that. Now I've got to go. Oh, okay, I'm managing it. And we're going. Oh no, that's not it. Oh, there you are. Hello. So I can stop screen share. I don't know what happens if I just press this. Oh, sorry, I pressed it. Didn't mean to. I'm going to have one more. Let's go with, let's see what this is.
ICL Call, a smart and reliable way to make international calls. Now you can call from anywhere in the world using ICL Call app without any roaming charges. You can also use our pinless services, not only in the UK but also from Europe, and call your loved ones abroad with competitive rates. Use ICL Call service from your landline, PC or any mobile phones. Register free on www.iclcall.com and start using the service that suits you.
To do was to share this some way, somehow. Oh my goodness. Is it there? I just wanted to share this broadcast with the group. Let's see if I can do that. That's Mindset Monday. And that says it's happening now, so it doesn't know what it's talking about. Let's have a look. I'm just going to see if I can share it quickly with the group. If you're not a member of the group, Making Maths Fun with Kids of All Ages. That's the group, and you feel free to join that. And there's lots of activities going on there, and that's live. Okay, there's Shafiq said lots of luck. He's from Bangladesh. It's good to see you, Shafiq. Thank you for joining. It's hard for me to see the messages today because I'm having to do the sharing on my own. So I don't see the messages while I'm doing the sharing. So I apologize if I haven't got back to you. Share to a group. Here we go. I'm sharing it to Making Maths Fun for Kids of All Ages. Sharing that there. And then I'm going to share it to my personal profile as well, so that my people like my dad can see it and things. Okay. Let's let that share, because it's really hard to do that when I'm the one that's giving the presentation. Normally, Toni does the presentation, and I get to press buttons and things behind the scenes. No, nearly there. And everything's a bit slow because I'm sharing everything, so it's a little bit slow. So now if I share that, I should share it too. Not to my story. Please, not to my story. There you go. Yay, done it. So let's get back to maths in real life. So what have we got? If we can get that, if we're very lucky. No, don't want to do that. You know what? I think we're just going to go, and I'm going to just put the camera on, and let's hope it works right. You know that one? Did it get unplugged? Oh, it got unplugged. I was attempting to put up a spiral earlier, and I got myself in a tangle. And managed to unplug my other camera. No, that's why that doesn't work, because that's not where it goes. How's that? Let's see. Do we now have another? Here we go. Now we have another camera. Oh, or not. Have we got it? Is it working? Camera. Hello, camera. Hello, hello. Oh, there it is. Yay. Here we go. So now I've also got to take the green screen off because it confuses everything. Yes. Okay. Now, I managed to make myself a nice little mess here. So I just started off with a toilet roll, just a plain toilet roll, and I cut it. Where's the other one? I cut it in two. Well, not, I just cut it into one down the middle. So I just cut it, just opened up the tube like that, so it's flat. And then I was able to cut out some very basic shapes, and we're going to come back to those in a minute because you'll see what sort of patterns we're making in a minute. But that's something we're going to do that shortly. Well, I'm going to show you how to do it, and also we're going to put up a video on YouTube with very clear instructions, hopefully, on how to do it. So that's one thing we can do. And now I'm going to go back to the other screen because we're going to talk about tires. Now, before we go back, I'm still sharing the screen, and I had something ready on here. And let's see, hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm looking at here. Says she, hope in theory that you can see what I can see, which is a page full of car tires, tire tracks. Well, those tire tracks, they are friezes. They're going up and down and they're going round, but they're still one-dimensional. They're just a repetition of the same pattern. And not only that, if you notice, like especially if you get a nick in it, or the tire wears more on one side on the other, or there's some damage on it, then the repeating pattern, instead of being really, really short, because the pattern repeats very frequently on the tire, if there's like a chunk missing or something, then the pattern is then going to repeat once every time the tire goes round. So it's still a frieze. It's just the frequency, so it's a lower frequency. The repetition takes a full rotation of the tire instead of repeating multiple times on when each tire goes round. So if you look at tire tracks, then you're making friezes. And then the other really intriguing ones, I'm going to show you these other. That was the baths in Rome. And this, I'm going to leave that up because I might have time to come back to that afterwards. Now, let's see. If I get back to here. Oh, we might have some comments. Oh, yes. Shafiq from Bangladesh. God bless you as well, Shafiq. Thank you so much for joining in with us. Now, I've got to work out how to do the PowerPoint again. I've got 8 more minutes before we have the next break. Let's see. Hopefully, it'll just work. Hopefully, you can see what I can see. And I'm going to play. Oh, no, not from the start. Play from current slide. Here we go. So you can see the tire tracks. And that's a nice image there where it repeats. And that is a frieze. It's just it's going into the distance. So it changes size, but it doesn't change size. It just looks like it changes size. And that's perspective. And then we've got footprints. Now, our footprints, if you just keep walking in a straight line, are you making a frieze? Are you repeating the same pattern? And there's lots of different types of patterns. There's 7, I beg your pardon. There are 7 different types of patterns, which we'll look at in very shortly. And with you, if you keep walking and you make sure your feet are placed exactly the right distance apart from each other, are you making a frieze? And what kind of frieze are you making? So you're not making, there are 2 types we're considering it. One is like if you hop like a bunny, so you have both your feet. I don't want to stop sharing. How did I do it last time? What did I do? Did I press escape and then, no, it's going to continue sharing. So I'll just leave it like that. Play from current slide. Yeah, so if you put both your feet together and then jump and just keep jumping, you're making a more symmetrical frieze than if you have your alternating feet. But nonetheless, they're both friezes because the pattern repeats itself. And what comes next? Now, here are the 7 patterns. So I'm going to, whoopsie. Okay, so there are 7 different types of patterns, and there are only 7 different types of patterns in a frieze that are symmetrical, that are actually called a frieze. They're a frieze because they repeat. And there are 7 different types of symmetry, should we say. So this is the PPP frieze. So it's a repeated translation. So there's no reflection symmetry and there's no rotational symmetry. It's not rotated. Well, it's rotated by 360, which is it's back to original. And the same with the reflection, it's reflected and back on itself. There's no other change other than transformation, which means that is moved. So it's just moved. The transformation is actually the word I was looking for before. So different kinds of transformations. We have transformations includes translations, and it includes rotation, and it includes mirror images. And so this is just translation. It's moved, and it keeps its copy of itself again and again and again and again. I guess it's like if you were hopping on one foot and your track was just 1 foot, then that would be a translation. Or if you were maybe hopping with 2 feet as well, but 2 feet, the pattern is the same. And we're calling it for this, we're calling it a PPPPP. So there are 7. So look around you, be noticing what kind of pattern is that. Now, this isn't these aren't technical terms, by the way, the PPPP and the EEEE. There are technical terms that mathematicians use, and you can learn those. And I haven't included a link for that, but you can just Google. But we also give you an example of some before the end. So these give you a sense more of a sense of what they're like. So this one is the the E frieze pattern. And if you notice, the reason why we're calling it E, Tony's created all these slides, by the way, not me, is that there within each, let's say, little squares, there's 1, 2, 3 and a bit, let's say, units that are repeated, but within themselves, they're not symmetrical. Just like a letter E is symmetrical, they're symmetrical across the horizontal. It's got a horizontal rotational line of symmetry. So if you put a line right across the center and put a mirror across that, you would get that same image. But they don't have vertical symmetry because if you notice, the fat bar goes on top of the circle in one direction and under it on the other, so it like goes through that circle. So you don't have symmetry, vertical symmetry in each of those little segments. So there's translations. We've got translations, so that you can cut it out and keep repeating it. But you also have, if you put a mirror right across the center, you have the same top and bottom. So like the letter E. If you put a mirror right across the middle, you get the letter E still in the mirror. And then you have the letter E repeated again and again. So that's the E frieze pattern. And we're going to do one more before the break. Now we've got the dubba 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 dub rubba dub dub, and the DB frieze pattern. Tony's been very clever finding a pattern that actually looks like a D and a B back to back. So if you look at each DB, they're back to back. So you've got vertical mirror lines on those. You've got a vertical line of symmetry there, and they're reflected back on each other vertically. So each segment has that element, but you don't have the horizontal. If you put a mirror in the middle, you wouldn't have the same on front and back. It changes because it goes straight up. The bar goes straight up, but you still have the translations. So you can still, each one of those little segments it could be a stamp, and you could stamp it out and keep going. So that's the DB. And before we move on to the next one, we are going to go to a break because I've now hopefully worked out how to do this, fingers crossed. And so she, optimistically, here we go. And I'll go to here. Oh, I'm getting better at this. The program before this is called Mindset Monday, and it's all about, well, I didn't mention that today, perseverance and determination. So that helps you with your mindset, and that's what you need to get over the technology. And each week there's a different challenge. Here we go. See you after the break. It's interesting how my face appears in between the ads. Right, just making a note for myself there. All right, so we're going to go back to the slideshow if we're very lucky. Here we go, back to the slideshow. I hope you can see what I can see. And we've now got we've done the the E and the DBD. Now we've got the PDP frieze pattern. So we've got rotation happening now. So if you see, they're not just stamps where you're stamping one and the same without having to move your hand. You're having to rotate your hand. If you've got a stamp of that arrow, of that feather, you have to actually rotate your hand 180 degrees in order to stamp the next one, and then back again to stamp the next one, and then back again to stamp the next one. And if you put a mirror vertically anywhere along there, you're not going to get the same pattern on either side of it. No, because you've got one going down and the other going up. And if you put a mirror horizontally, again, you're not going to get the same pattern. But what you do have is you are going to stamp it, but you're going to stamp it and it's repeated, but it's repeated by rotating by 180 degrees. So you're translating, you're moving across, and you're rotating, you're stamping it. Rotate again, translate, move across, stamp. Rotate 180 degrees, translate, move across, stamp. And you want to move across exactly the same amount every time. And that way you're making a frieze with that pattern, with translations and rotations. Now we've got the HHHH frieze pattern. Oops, no, you can't see it, and I don't even know what I'm showing you here now. What am I doing? I'm going to stick with this screen because I think it gets it's a bit challenging. Okay, so this is the HHHH frieze pattern. Now, this has symmetry all over the show. So you have the vertical lines with each of those like bows, like a double fleur-de-lis. Then you could have a horizontal mirror all the way across the center, and it'd be the same top and bottom. So you can have vertical mirrors in between each pattern, and it'd be the same on either side. But you also, and you can rotate it. You wouldn't know the difference. So you could also be a bit rotational as well. So, but you've also got the stamp where you've got the, oh, that's right. It works for rotations as well. You can use rotation to achieve the results, but you've got the stamp, boom, 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 the same stamp. You just move it across, stamp, move it across, stamp, and you've got the same result. And then you got the PB pattern. Now I have to confess, I'm not 100% sure about this one. You've got translation, so you can see clearly that you're moving it across, but you're not stamping the same pattern. Because if you rotate, if you notice, if you look very carefully, if you rotate one of them, then it's different. So they're not the same. You don't have vertical symmetry, line of symmetry. So every second one is repeats, but not every. They don't. You can't just rotate one and get the next one. You have to catch two of them as a stamp and then stamp the next two. And I really don't actually quite get the rotation. I don't fully understand this one. Apparently it's very complex, and I'm okay with not understanding it. But if you get curious, please do investigate it. This is frieze. This is frieze patterns. That's what it's called. Please do investigate it. I'm being brutally honest here. I don't fully understand it, and it's not easy to understand. And we were working with Tony's husband is a highly advanced mathematician, and he understands it, but explaining it or helping others understand it is not easy. And the it's an involved subject. So this is a perfect example of where you can start with, say, the H's, and you can get it's really easy to see where the symmetry is, and then it gets more complicated. And that's how maths works. You can start off easy, and then it gets more complicated, and you can stop when you're ready to stop. So then, actually, in a way, this is easier for me than for me, this is the hard one. PB is hard. That's like super hard. I have not worked it out yet, and that is absolutely critical. Not that I won't work it out, but I haven't worked it out yet, and that's okay. And ideally, every activity you do in maths, you yourself, if you're doing it with children, you want to start with somewhere that you understand. So you don't want to present something that you don't understand or that they don't understand. You want to start with something you understand and build on it. And you want to ideally reach a point where you don't understand or where they don't understand. Because if you don't reach that point, then you're not stretching yourself. You already know, basically. You're just reiterating things you already know. So it's a good thing to reach a point where you're like, whoopsie, I don't get this yet. And always yet, add that yet. That yet is so important. I can't tell you how important that yes is. Yet is because it's so many young people, or even adults saying, oh, I don't know how to do that. And that's it. Mind you, it could just be because they're not interested and they're not going to engage in it, which is fine. But if it's holding them back, that's different. If it's something where either they need to understand it, say to succeed in a job, or to succeed in building IKEA furniture, building furniture, whatever it is that needs to be done. If you just keep that word yet in your vocabulary, it's a great tool. I don't know how to do that yet. I don't understand it yet. Haven't worked it out yet. It's so powerful. It keeps your options open, and it basically gives your mind a message to say, right, keep working on it. Don't give up on it. Whereas if you give up on it, you know, that's it. I'm done. You're telling your brain to stop thinking about it. Whereas if you say yet and you allow yourself to keep thinking about it, you might have one of those moments where you wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, I get it now. Or you could be walking along a path and suddenly it hits you. Oh, I understand now. And so that's the power of the yet. So this one is a bit, in a way it's complicated, but in a way it's not. So in this one, you've got the stamp. You can see the stamp is the same. What are you doing with it? You're translating it. So you've got the bottom one where you could just literally translating stamp, 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 stamp. But now how do you get from one of those stamps to the top? First, you have to rotate it 180 degrees, and then you have to move it across. So you're translating and rotating, but you're not translating by a full stamp. So for the bottom one, you're going, let's say, the whole width of one and stamping it, and the whole width of one and stamping it. But for the top one, you're rotating it, and you're only moving half the distance and then stamping it. And that way they have this lovely alternating pattern. So here we've got translations, reflection in vertical mirror lines, because if you put the mirror anywhere along the center of any of those flowers, you have the same on either side. And then you've got the glide reflections, which is what I was saying. You rotate and stamp, so they're actually reflected, but they're offset. And then rotations are necessary in order to achieve the pattern. So this one I get is the other one I haven't got yet. These others, so I highly encourage you to have a good look at these. So this is all of them together, and those are the only 7 patterns. There are no more. Along the 1D, as in one strip, every pattern you see that's a repeating pattern will be one of those 7. And this is one of those, they talk about mathematical proofs. I'm going to just stop this. Let me see what's next. Stop the screen sharing. Oh yes, I think we might do that after the break. Wait a minute, what have I got going here? Yeah, no, we're going to do that after the break, because I'm going to do something else now. Okay, so now I've got to stop sharing. Now I really have to stop sharing. Now, stop share. Okay, I'm hoping that you were able to see everything else. Hello, nice to see you back. I'm going to put this back. No, I'm going to change cameras anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, with my lovely mess here, we're going to create a frieze pattern. I'm going to show you how. I've already done it. You can see what I've done. I'm not going to do that. Well, I could pretend and just work with a blank sheet. Here you go. But I'm not a blank sheet anyway. That's just the way it is with me. You just have to, I don't want to say mad professor, because that doesn't serve women in science, but some of us are more random than others, and that's okay. So we're making this shape. Now, I did think about this, and I thought to myself, well, because what happens, well, first of all, I'll make the shape and then I'll tell you what my thoughts were. So what I did is open up a toilet paper, and then I cut out two simple shapes. One is the H pattern, and I use the letter H just to make it simple. And the other is which pattern is it? Oh dear, 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 dear. Which pattern is it? It is the which pattern is it? It's not the H pattern, because it doesn't. It must be the P. It's the P. It must be the PPP. No, because that doesn't have symmetry both ways. I'm not. Do you know what? I don't know what pattern it is. So that's the question. There you go. We can work out which pattern that is. It's definitely a repeated pattern, but it's not the H symmetry, because it doesn't have. It has vertical symmetry. It has vertical mirror lines, but it doesn't have the translation. Vertical mirror lines. Reflections in horizontal? No. Vertical mirror lines. Oh, it's the DBDBD. That's it. It's the DBDBD. I got it. It's the DBDBD. Now let's see, make sure that I'm not stopping you from seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. Yeah, it's the DBD. So it's which way can you see that? It's D that way and B that way. D, B, D, B, D, B. It's that one. Okay, so we've got a sample of each, and then what I've done is I've taped it back together. I'll cut them out. That way I could cut them out. And then I've taped them all back together nice and carefully. And the idea is that you then rotate it and then use I'm using these highlighters. You just get in there and you just well, actually let's use the green one for the tree. You just color it all in. Whoopsie. You just color it in, and you can take your time, do it carefully. I'm just doing a very, very rough tree there. And then what you do is you rotate it all the way around, and then you repeat the pattern. But what you want to do if you're going to do this is actually draw some nice proper lines. Make sure you're rotating along the line and not just going off in weird directions, so you can follow. Make it's a nice long piece of paper, or tape a bunch of bits of paper together. You can make your own frieze line. Now I was thinking, well, what if we just, because this is the effect. Let me just cover that up. You end up, for example, with this, is they're quite far apart, and I wanted them to be nice and closer. So I thought to myself, well, why don't we just put another H in on the other end? I thought, well, it would be quite weak, but well, I'm sure we could just use another piece of cardboard to do it. And then I realized that that's not going to work, because the whole point is you're repeating the same pattern. The only way to repeat exactly the same pattern, well, you can cut it out with a digital cutter these days, but in order to do this at home as a home project, the only way to do it by cutting things out with cardboard is you have to repeat the same pattern. So for that, you have to rotate it all the way around, and hey presto, you've got the same one there and the same one again, keep going. Now, what you could do, but it's a lot harder, is to make the diameter of your cylinder smaller, but then it will be a lot harder to draw the pattern. But you could certainly do that, and then they'd be closer together. Basically, they'd be more frequent. So that's a nice little project to do at home, and there will be a link to the video in the description, which shows you how we're doing it. And then there's the tires. Let me just stop that camera. And now I can get my green screen back. Oh, I love technology. Here we go. Put that one on, which has got the wrong date on it. Never mind. Is that right? Yes. And then there's the tires. So you could actually, if you find an old tire, you could use chalk, or you could use paint, that whitewash type paint that will wash off, and only do this like under supervision. Or you can do it on a large piece of paper, an old cardboard box, something like that, and actually use an old tire to make a frieze pattern. And you can carve out a pattern, like something that's, you don't want to repeat the pattern. The whole point is that you allow the pattern to repeat itself. So you could change, well, you can make several different ones and then keep rotating it around. And as long as the pattern repeats, which it will with the same tire, then that will get the desired result. And this technique is used with material, but when you kind of use wallpaper, it can be the pattern of your cloth. It's the pattern of wallpaper. Now that's there's the different there's different combinations with that. But if you would just say wanted to strip down an arm or along the side of a dress, just one strip of a repeating pattern, you made a ribbon. You might have a ribbon that for your hair or to decorate a hall, whatever you wanted, or for upholstery. Then there are only 7 combinations. That's 7 possibilities, and that is a mathematical proof that is used in real life. How cool is that? And then for wallpaper, it's a variation of that, and then that's for 2-dimensional. So you're going to cover the whole wall or cover the whole tapestry for furniture, or cover the whole material for clothing or curtains, and then of course you've got the 3D where crystallography comes in, and that occurs in real life naturally. And bubbles do it too, by the way. If you make a big mass of bubbles like a foam, you have the same effect inside, but it's not necessarily symmetrical. It's some bubbling scientists are always looking for the perfect symmetrical bubble foam. And let's see now what we're going back to the slideshow, but I think we've done our last ad, so we're good. I think I've done okay, I hope. And we're going to go back to the PowerPoint, share the screen to the last little bit. Oh, share and pray. Share and pray. Oh, I've got to activate it. Share and pray. Sharing and praying, and kerpow, kerbang. Now, I don't mind playing from current slide. Do not go back to the beginning. Oh, there we go. We've got all the different symmetries. And now here we have some, again, examples in real life. This is where art, we've had it at the beginning. We're going back to examples in real life. This is the Alhambra in Granada in Spain, in the south of Spain. So this was built by the Moors, who came, and their science and art and maths was a lot more advanced than that of the Spaniards at that point in time. And they made this amazing palace, and these are things inside. So we've got, this is kind of 3D, but you still got the 2D effect, very ornate. Can you see that? There is a repeating pattern on they look like shells lower down. It repeats every other one. So the repeating pattern is much more complex, but it's there nonetheless. And then you've got the one on top that looks like lace on top. And that was built by the Yusuf I, Sultan of Granada in year 1333. My goodness, that was when they started building the Alhambra Palace. How many years ago is that? Like 700 years ago that was built. Extraordinary. And this is kind of like wallpaper pattern tiling in the same place in the Alhambra. And if you can see, just that starts to give you an idea of how the tile repeats, and that's a whole, oh my goodness, it's such an amazing thing to create art. You can make these sorts of things using the compasses and rulers, and you just keep repeating. You see the hexagons in the middle of the little twirly whirlies. You've got the hexagonal stars, and you've got hexagons. You've got white hexagons and coloured little hexagonal stars, and then you've got the curls, a bit like the Escher effect. I think he was inspired by this, if I seem to remember from what I learned. And we've got decorating vases. You've got the frieze again. You've got the frieze along that horizontal line. Now the vertical ones are not friezes because they start wide and they go down, so they don't have the symmetry. But the one across in the center, that there is a frieze, and you can see what kind of symmetry you think that is. I think I've got it. I think I know what kind of symmetry that is. What kind of symmetry do you think of the 7? I think that one's quite easy to work out. But see if you can work it out whenever you see a frieze. Is it a frieze? Is it not? What kind of symmetry has it got? And that's the same. It's the Alhambra again, and this is a print from the 19th century. And this was really lovely. So I thought when I saw this picture that it was in New Orleans in the southern United States, because I've seen terraces like that there. This apparently is in Brisbane. All these slides that are going to come up, were taken in Australia. So I'm not quite sure when they were done. It must have been early 20th century. I'm not sure if it says it here, but there's this, and I have the link is in the description. This activity here, enrichmaths.org, is activity 1341, but just click on the link. And it's an article written by Heather McClay, and she went to Australia and she took these pictures. And what she identified is all the different types of friezes in this lace-like, what's it called? In these ornate. You'll see. Just let's have a look. Here we go. So we have cast iron. That's it. Cast iron railings, cast iron designs. So you can see you've got the repeating pattern like a ribbon, keeps going across, repeating across. And that's what kind of pattern do you think that is? Now, she's going to use a different kind of pattern. Here we go. You can't really see that so much there. It's kind of a bit blurred. But nonetheless, you can imagine if you spot something like that. I can imagine in India, there's amazing windows that don't have glass, that they're just ornate patterns. Check those out. Now, some of them will be more like the wallpaper effect, but you might have some horizontal patterns that just you'll be able to identify, like a band that's a frieze, and see which kind of pattern that you see. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. This is my message to have a stretch break, and I can't get to it. Oh no, I've lost my mouse. I've lost my ability to pause this. I don't know if you can see it or not. I hope you can't. Now, what you can see here is the mathematical way of describing these. So what Toni called the EEE and the HHH and the BDBDP and the DBDBD. These things you see here, P111, PM11, PMM2, P1A1, those are mathematical ways of describing these patterns, so that a mathematician, or anyone that don't have to be a mathematician, you could be an 11-year-old who's decided, I want to get into this, I love this, and I want to understand this. You can go and figure out, you're just breaking a code, that's all you're doing. You're working out what those codes mean with respect to the frieze patterns. And you can Google it, you can do different investigations, you can create your own, you can work out with the ones that you've made, what kind of pattern it is, and you can use the mathematical terminology if you want to. And there you see examples of it. And they're just, these are all still in Australia. Let's see if we've got any that aren't. So look, I'd say these are in Paris. That says New Orleans. So there you go. That's what I was thinking when I first saw it. I thought it was New Orleans. So the bottom one. So she found a type 7, and apparently type 7, P1M1, whichever one that is quite hard to find. So see if you can find first of all, identify which one is the type 7, maybe catalogue the things that you see. But you've got these railings in Paris. We've got a PMA2, she's found in Paris, and a P112 in Paris. So watch out for those lovely ornate. They don't have to be made of metal. They can be made out, like the lovely ones in India, and I've seen them, all the ornate decorations. And it could be very simple decorations as well. As I say, it could be just a ribbon or a band on some clothing. And that is the end of the show. So I'm going to now slideshow, going to see if I can. There we go. Ooh, this might work. Go back there. Oh, no, that's not what I want. What if I go there? Yeah. What if I do that? Yeah. And then what if I do that? Yes. Okay, so far, sort of so good. Now, now I'm back with you. I can stop screen share. Oops, stop sharing. Oh, there was a stop sharing button underneath. I just didn't see it. Okay. And this is very odd with my green screen, because I've got a green screen behind me, and yet it's doing that flaky thing. Okay. So the challenge is multifold, and that is to spot. So this is about spotting maths in real life. People say, well, why should I do maths? Oh my goodness, everyone's like, why should I do maths? I'm never going to use this. This is only for when in school. Why should I bother? So many reasons why you should bother. Why should I learn the times tables? That was my beef. Oh, it took me, I was probably 10 years in. I'd started doing this, like making maths fun as a career, as a not even a career, as a not a profession even. I just can't help it. I have to. I'm compelled to do it. And I was still like, yes, but why do we have to learn the times tables? It's like, that just seems to be a waste of time to me, because you can work it out. Well, one of the things I've found out since I've been tutoring and things is that not everybody knows. Well, I didn't know all my times tables anyway, but I could work it out. But one of the interesting things is not everybody actually understands even what 4 times 3 means. And they get muddled up between, say, doing 2 squares, a bad example, 3 squared and 3 plus 3. And there's an awful lot of misconceptions and things that aren't understood. And I suppose learning your times tables, it gives you some number facts that can help you work it out. So, for example, I could say to somebody, well, okay, what's 3 threes? And they know that's 9. If they know that's 9, then I can say, what's 3 plus 3? And then they can look at it 6, and then we can do some physical, actually say, give 3 stones and 3 stones and add them together, and you've got 6 stones. Whereas 3 times 3, you've actually got 3 piles of 3 stones. And so you can use knowing your times tables to help unravel misunderstandings and misconceptions. But also, it gives you fluency. So when you need to do more advanced things, you don't have to think about multiplying 6 times 7, which I still have. I think it's 42 now. I think I've finally learnt it over the last summer lockdown. I finally learnt my times tables, nearly got them all. That's one of the things I did during lockdown, was learn my times tables. And what are those things that are useful for maths? It helps you think. It gives you thinking skills. It gives you critical thinking skills. It helps you make decisions. It gives you logic. It gives you training in all these things. These things don't just happen. You don't wake up. You don't get born with all these abilities. And the really highly skilled mathematicians, like my brother is a very highly skilled mathematician, and I could never hold a candle to him, because it wasn't my path. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So he dedicated a lot of time and effort. But even when he was 18, he didn't know anywhere near, didn't have the skills anywhere near what he has now. And when he left university, he didn't have the skills he has now. And when he finished his PhD, he didn't have the skills he has now. So it's you are constantly learning, and all those skills you gain learning mathematics are life skills that will help you throughout your whole life. And you have to work at them. They don't just come for free. So maths really helps with that. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully Toni will be with us next week. And that's 5 o'clock London time for Happy Maths Hour. I hope you've enjoyed it. See you next week.